Your iPhone is an amazing piece of tech right out of the box, but there are some settings that I always recommend people change that will make your iPhone experience even better. So in this video, I'm going to share those settings with you. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with some battery settings. I'll start by going to settings and then selecting battery, and then we'll take a look at battery percentage. If you haven't enabled this yet, I recommend doing so. It does exactly what it sounds like. It displays a percentage next to or in your battery icon, depending on your iPhone model. This gives you a clearer picture of how much battery you've got remaining, which is obviously much easier to read. Next, tap into battery health and charging. Here, if you haven't already enabled it, switch on optimized battery charging. This feature allows your iPhone to learn your charging routine to help reduce battery aging by limiting the time that your iPhone spends fully charged. I go into more detail on this in one of my recent iPhone battery related videos, which I will link in the description if you're interested. But essentially, lithium-ion batteries, the type used in iPhones, perform best when they're around 50% capacity. They're under the most strain when they're either completely empty or fully charged. So by enabling optimized battery charging, your iPhone will attempt to reduce the amount of time that the battery is completely full. If you live in a region where clean energy charging is available, you can enable this feature if you like. With it enabled, your iPhone will aim to reduce your carbon footprint by selectively charging when lower carbon emission electricity is available. It's also worth pointing out that if you own an iPhone 14 or older, when you tap into battery, you'll likely see battery health and charging as one dedicated section. But if you own an iPhone 15 or newer, you'll probably find that battery health and charging are separated into their own dedicated sections. And this is because on the iPhone 15 and 16 models, you've got the option to tap into charging and set a charge limit, a feature that's exclusive to those models. I actually think that Apple has done this because they only want the feature on brand new phones, because on older phones where the battery is already degraded, this feature would appear like it's not working even though it is. Essentially, it lets you set a charge limit anywhere between 80% and 100%. Your iPhone may even suggest an ideal charge limit based on your charging and use habits. So my iPhone recommended that I set my limit to 85%, meaning that my iPhone will never charge above 85% capacity. It will always stop at that level. The reason for this is that I don't use my phone heavily enough to require a full 100% charge each day. So by limiting it to 85%, I reduce the strain on my battery, which should help it last longer in the long run. If we tap back to return to the battery page, there's a section here worth exploring, the battery usage section. You can view this over the last 24 hours or 10 days. If I look at the last 24 hours and scroll down, I can see a breakdown of battery usage by app. The first thing that I would do here is review the list to see if there are any apps with unexpectedly high battery usage. If you notice an app that you haven't actively used, but it's still consuming a lot of battery, I'd recommend force quitting it. To do this, swipe up from the bottom of the screen and hold for just a second, then swipe left or right to locate the app and swipe up on the app to close it. If that doesn't resolve the issue, consider uninstalling and reinstalling the app to see if that helps. Next, if you tap on Show Activity, look for any noticeable differences between the app's on-screen time and background time. If the time in the background is significantly higher than the time on screen, this indicates that the app is using a lot of background resources. And in that case, I would suggest the same approach, force quitting it first and then potentially uninstalling it if the issue persists. Along those lines, there is a setting that I would recommend reviewing, and for this, go back to Settings, choose General, and then tap into Background App Refresh. This setting allows apps to refresh content in the background, which can impact battery life. By enabling or disabling this, either generally or on a per app basis, you might be able to conserve some battery. First, tap Background App Refresh at the top to choose whether you want it off, Wi-Fi only, or Wi-Fi and cellular. Background app refresh is actually useful, so I wouldn't recommend turning it off entirely, but setting it to Wi-Fi only can help conserve battery because pulling data from Wi-Fi uses way less power than using cellular. Alternatively, you can go back and disable background app refresh for specific apps where you perhaps don't need it. The last setting that I would recommend checking to help conserve battery life is auto lock. To find this, go to Settings, tap Display and Brightness, and scroll down to select Auto Lock. This setting often gets overlooked, but it controls how long your iPhone will stay active before automatically locking. If you set this too low, say 30 seconds, you might find that your iPhone is locking too quickly, requiring you to constantly wake it up. On the other hand, if you set it too high or to never, your iPhone could end up consuming unnecessary battery if you forget to lock it manually. Find a duration that works for you. I tend to set mine at 2 minutes, but 1 minute could work just as well. So these tips are going to make you so much more productive on your iPhone, but a tip for being more productive in general is to stay healthy. And for that, I use my Lumen, the sponsor of today's video. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach, a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. Oh, and yes, the app syncs with the Apple Health app. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. The way that I use it is I breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so I know exactly what's going on in my body in real time, and then Lumen gives me tips to keep me on top of my health. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to real benefits like easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. So if you'd like to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/honesttech to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/honesttech for 15% off your purchase. Okay, with battery settings out of the way, let's turn our attention to privacy and security enhancements. The first setting I'd recommend looking at is advanced data protection. To access this, go to Settings, tap on your Apple ID at the top, then select iCloud. Scroll down and tap on Advanced Data Protection. Advanced data protection is essentially end-to-end encryption for various iCloud data types, ensuring that data listed on this page can only be decrypted on your trusted devices. This protects your information even in the event of a data breach in the cloud. Data types covered include things like messages backup, device backup, reminders, and wallet passes, all containing important information that would benefit from this added layer of security. But a key point to keep in mind when you enable advanced data protection is that you'll be responsible for your own data recovery. Apple won't have the keys required to recover your data, so you'll need to set up an alternate recovery method like a recovery contact or recovery key. I personally use the recovery contact method where I've set up someone that I trust as my recovery contact, and I'm also their recovery contact in return. You'll be prompted to add a recovery contact on the next page, and I recommend choosing a trusted person for this. With that done, I'd go back to Settings, scroll down to Privacy and Security, tap into this, and then select Tracking. By default, there's an option here called Allow Apps to Request to Track, and I recommend disabling this. So allowing apps to request to track means that they're asking for permission to track your activity across other apps and websites, which helps them better target you for ads and data collection. I never allow this regardless of the app, so I've got it disabled. With this setting turned off, apps won't even be able to request tracking permission. It will just be disabled by default. Next, I'd go back a page and review a couple of menus to check how much information you're sharing with apps. The first is location services. Tap into this to see which apps currently have access to your location. For all of these, I recommend setting location access to while using the app at the very most. You may also want to disable location access for some apps altogether. For example, having precise location enabled for the camera is really useful because it tells me exactly where I took a photo. But for calendar, there's no real benefit to me, so I'd likely choose never. You may also wish to keep location access enabled in general, but disable precise location for certain apps. Then go back to Privacy and Security and tap into Contacts. Here you'll see a list of apps that currently have some form of access to your contacts. You can choose between full access, exactly what it sounds like, limited access, where you select specific contacts that the app can access, or none. You can edit selected contacts by tapping the relevant option. And just a reminder, when I say access to contacts, I mean that the apps can view their details. They can't actually contact them. It's also worth going back a page and doing the same for photos. This will allow you to control how much access specific apps have to your photo library. Head back to privacy and security, then tap into location services. Scroll all the way to the bottom of this page and tap system services, then tap significant locations. You'll usually need to unlock this with Face ID or Touch ID. Significant locations is where your phone and iCloud connected devices begin to recognize places that are important to you in order to provide useful information. For example, my phone noticed that I frequently go to the same location at specific times on certain days of the week because I was dropping off or picking up my kids from nursery. By identifying this pattern, my phone was able to automatically suggest the mapping route to that location as soon as I get into the car at that particular time on those particular days. This information isn't accessible or readable by Apple. It's stored in an end-to-end encrypted manner. But I do understand why some people might be uncomfortable with this, so you adjust as you see fit. In this page, you can choose to disable significant locations altogether, but do be aware that doing this may impact some of your phone's functionality that requires these locations. You can also clear your history at the bottom if you prefer. And finally, here are a few more settings in this category that I think are worth adjusting. Go to Settings, scroll down to Apps and select Safari from the list. In this section, scroll down and enable Require Face ID to unlock private browsing. If you're using private browsing, you're likely doing so for a specific reason. Maybe you've handed someone your phone and they tap into Safari to access a private browser. Whatever you were viewing in private mode would normally be visible. With this setting enabled, they would need to authenticate themselves as you to see what's in your private browser. I'd also recommend ensuring fraudulent website warning is enabled. This feature alerts you when you're visiting potentially harmful websites. Finally, go back to your list of apps and tap into Face ID and passcode. Scroll down and make sure Use Face ID is enabled for your hidden and recently deleted albums. This works in a similar way. Anything that you've hidden or recently deleted will only be visible when you authenticate with your biometrics. By the way, if you're enjoying the content, you might be interested to know about the training portal that I'm building, iPhone Essentials Plus. It's more than 100 tips for your iPhone broken down by category with text, screenshots, and video for every single tip. There's no ads, no sponsors, just content. It launches very soon, and if you want to be the first to know when it launches, scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the video description. Let's spend a few moments looking at some accessibility settings. By definition, this entire section is designed for people with accessibility needs, but I think everyone should watch this part because some features here can benefit everyone. The first setting that I'd recommend looking at is in Settings, Accessibility, and then Siri. At the top of the screen, you'll find Siri pause time. By default, this is set to a standard pause time. This controls the amount of time that Siri pauses while you're speaking before it responds. Some people find it cuts them off mid-sentence, so you can adjust this to longer or longest to find what works for you. While you're on this page, scroll down to spoken responses. This is usually set to automatic. I find this works well for me, but you may prefer that Siri always speaks to you or always remains silent. In that case, you can select prefer spoken responses or prefer silent responses respectively. If you've enabled Siri to activate with a trigger phrase, then by default, it won't activate if your phone is facing down or covered. If you find this frustrating, you may want to enable always listen for Hey Siri. The last two settings to consider here are listen for atypical speech and call hang up. With listen for atypical speech enabled, your voice assistant will expand the speech patterns it listens for, improving recognition. This is a good toggle to switch on if Siri has trouble understanding you. With call hang up enabled, you can say, hey, hang up during a call, and your voice assistant will end the call for you. Speaking of ending calls, go back a page to accessibility, scroll up and tap touch. There's an option here called prevent lock to end call. Many people find it really frustrating when they accidentally lock their phone during a call, which then ends the call. Enabling this option prevents that from happening. If you struggle with larger screen sizes, consider enabling reachability. With this feature, you can swipe down near the bottom of your phone to bring the entire screen down to a more accessible level, and it will return to normal once you tap what you need. Finally, a few features added in iOS 18 are worth mentioning. If you go back to Settings, then select General, Keyboard, and tap Keyboards again, you can add a new keyboard. When you do, you'll have the option to add it as a new keyboard or merge it with the existing one. This is because iOS 18 offers a bilingual keyboard option, making it easier to type in multiple languages without switching keyboards. Returning to accessibility, go to Motion and tap Show Vehicle Motion Cues. Set this to automatic or on. When you're a passenger in a car, some dots will appear on the screen and move with the vehicle to help reduce motion sickness. Back in accessibility, you'll also find Prefer Non-Blinking Cursor. With this enabled, the text cursor will remain static instead of blinking when you're in a text box. So those are the main categorized settings, but there are still a few more worth exploring. I'm going to call this section Miscellaneous, so let's take a look. First, go to Settings, scroll down to Apps and select Messages. Scroll down to the text messaging section, and if you're in a region that supports RCS messaging, tap into it and ensure it's enabled. RCS messaging allows for improved communication via text message with non-iPhone users. It is probably enabled by default if it's available in your region, but it's definitely worth checking to make sure. While you're here, I'd also recommend scrolling down to the message filtering section and considering filtering unknown senders. With this enabled, any text messages from unknown senders will still appear on your device, but they'll be placed in a separate section within Messages. This helps keep your messages from your contacts separate from those from unknown senders. On a similar note, tap out of Messages, scroll down and go into Phone. Here, it's worth checking that Silence Unknown Callers is enabled, especially if you get a lot of junk calls. The only drawback is that legitimate calls from unknown numbers will also be silenced, so you'll need to get into the habit of creating contacts for any numbers that you expect to receive calls from. For example, my wife and I are currently in the process of buying a house, so we receive a lot of calls from new numbers, so I toggle this setting on and off as I need it. Next, go back to the main settings page and select Camera. If you have a device that supports it, there should be an option called Portraits in Photo Mode. This setting allows your phone to automatically capture the data needed to create a portrait photo, even if you didn't take a shot using Portrait Mode. I'd also recommend scrolling up to the Composition section and ensuring that Grid and Level are enabled, as these features can help you take better, more balanced photos. So there you go, those are the settings that I always recommend changing on the iPhone to make your experience that bit better. What do you think? Any changes that you think should have been included? Drop me a comment and let me know. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.